Today I have some Easter decor hacks that will boost your mood and brighten your home. Welcome to the Chic Show. The 5 Under $5 playlist is hosted by Emily at Farm Charm Chic and guest hosted today by Wendy at White Sparrow Living. Their channels and the playlist are in the description box below. These are wood cutouts from Dollar Tree, and as you can see there, I've drawn a rounded line across the top of these because I'm going to cut that off, and just regular scissors work fine for this. I wouldn't use your best scissors for sure, but I'm going to cut along there just so I have the cup and not the whip topping on top. And then I'm going to use my little finger sander to sand down any rough edges, and I'm going to do this to all three. Now I'm using some decoupage paper. This is Rustic decoupage paper that I got in Sonnet's Maker's Box. And I'm cutting out different little pieces to add to these little teacups. So I'm kind of measuring by putting the cup on top of the area, and then I'm just going to cut out that decoupage paper for each one. I chose to paint the handles on each of the cups with, I believe this is Champness by Fusion. It's a good idea to paint your surface white if you are decoupaging a napkin or decoupage paper, rice paper, anything like that. It does help those colors to pop a little bit better against that white background. So I'm going to be painting each of the cups with one coat of white chalk paint. And then I'm going to go over the white paint with some Mod Podge, and I'm going to let that completely dry. I'm using the iron-on method for these decoupage papers. So I placed each paper on top of the cup that I wanted it on, and then I used a piece of Teflon and my little mini press, and I'm just checking those edges to make sure that it is sealed completely around those edges. The iron does heat up that Mod Podge so that it reactivates and the paper will stick to it. And then I'm going to take my little finger sander and this little emery board and sand off any excess paper. Now that the cups are finished, I'm going to work on the board that I'm going to apply them to. This is a flooring sample from our garage, and I'm simply going to give it 2 or 3 coats of Petticoat Pink by DIY. DIY paint does need to be sealed, so I'm going to seal this in with Big Top. Once that has completely dried, I'm going to go back with PintArt's 2-step crackle process, and I'm going to apply the first step, and that's the white looking paint that you see here. It does go on clear, and I'm going to give it 1 coat, trying to work in long single strokes. Once that's completely dry, I'm going to apply the second part, and this is this brown looking paint, which again, it goes on with a little bit of a tint, but that's what helps it crackle. Once that's completely dry, and it doesn't look like it's dry because it does dry shiny, but I'm going to go back with some clear wax, and this will tone down the shine, but it will also allow this next step to work a little bit easier. I'm using some black wax, and I'm rubbing that on to bring out some of the crackles from that PintArt crackle process. And the clear wax allows me to be able to wipe this black back a little bit, so it acts kind of like an eraser. Once I have applied the black, I wanted to go ahead and apply some brown wax as well. And this is Jolie's dark wax. And I'm just going to use the same process and let some of those cracks and imperfections come through. And using that same brown wax, I'm going to go around the edge of the cups where I cut them and all along the edges. Now I'm going to arrange my cups onto the board, and you want to kind of be sure which way you want your cups tilted before you start so that you know which side to apply the decoupage paper and paint which side of the handle. So this is the way I want mine. I'm going to start by gluing on the top cup first because it is flush with that wood, and I'm just using some super glue, wood glue for this. I am going to add a little bit of hot glue as well so that I will get an immediate hold, but that wood glue will be sure to secure that down over time. Because the other two cups are not going to be flush against that piece of wood, I'm going to add a piece of popsicle stick to the back of each one of those. And again, using wood glue and hot glue, I'm applying those down as I've shown here. You could certainly add a hanger if you wanted to. I just left mine as is and propped it up. Let me know what you think about this project. For this project, I'm using one of these carrots from Dollar Tree. I believe they were from last year, and also some thrifted sheet music. So this is a very budget-friendly project. After tracing around one of those leaves, I decided it would be better to trace all three leaves at the same time. And then I'm using a paintbrush with water so that I can tear along the bottom of these leaves or the greenery for the carrots. And then I'm using scissors to cut out the rest of it. I'm going to tear the paper in each of the three sections so that I can piece these back together like a puzzle. I want to bring out the edges of each of these pieces, so I'm using this black ink pad from Hobby Lobby, and those torn edges I'm just trying to brush on there so that you can see that there are three different sections. The bottom part of the carrot, I'm going to be using this decoupage paper from Sonnet's Maker's Box back in the fall, and I just cut out the section that I wanted, and I'm going to be painting the bottom part of the carrot with some white chalk paint. This will help those colors pop. For this decoupage method, I'm going to be spritzing my decoupage paper with some water, and then I'm going to be using liquid patina to adhere the decoupage paper to the carrot. So I've placed my paper down, and this is of course after the paint is completely dry, and I'm going to create just a little starter strip at the top with this liquid patina. And then I will also be brushing it onto the top. And once I get that little starter strip going, I'll finish with the bottom part of the carrot. For the sheet music, I'm just going to place down that liquid patina and then place down each of my sections. And I'm placing the two side pieces first and then the center section last. Just in case there's any overlapping, I want that center section to overlap the other two sections. I did have a little space there at the bottom that I needed to cover up, so I just tore some more of that sheet music and used that liquid patina to adhere it to the bottom of that part. Once the liquid patina has dried, I'm going to use my finger sander and sand away all the excess decoupage paper. This gives a nice finished edge to this cute little neutral carrot. This cute little bunny is from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove that hanger at the top, and I'm going to give it a spritz of water. This wood is really dry, and I do want to stain it with some Waverly Antique wax. So this extra water will help it not be quite so dark. So I'm going to stain the entire thing, and then I will wipe back any excess. I'm going to apply some milk paint to the top of the rabbit using Window Pane by Miss Pickens Milk Paint. I've mixed it up, and I'm just simply going to apply a coat to the bunny, and then we will let it dry and see if we get any crackles. Using a heat gun to dry it not only speeds up the drying process, but it also helps that paint crackle a little bit more. And although I'm not getting a great deal of crackle, it is just enough. I'm going to add a little drop cloth pocket to the front of my rabbit. I ripped the drop cloth to get the size that I wanted so that I would have those rustic looking edges. Now I'm using the Petiche stamps from IOD, and they're eggs and a little nest, and I'm going to be applying these to the front of the drop cloth. Now let's see if we can age this little bunny a little bit. I'm using my finger sander, and I'm sanding along the edges to bring back some of that natural wood or that stained wood that's underneath. Now I'm going to apply some hot glue to secure my pocket together, and then use the hot glue to secure it to the front of the bunny. I did use that little finger sander all over the bunny as well to give it a little bit more rustic look. I'm going to add a few flowers inside of the pocket, but I also was trying to decide what I wanted to add to the bunny's ear. So I decided on this little piece of burlap ribbon just to tie to the top of the ear, and then I'll add these little hydrangeas to the pocket. For his tail, I chose to use these little burlap flowers, and I'm just overlapping them, layering them onto the tail. This little drop cloth bunny is the perfect addition to my Easter decor. If you have a candle around with a wood lid, here's the perfect way to make it fit into your Easter decor. I removed the lid, and I sanded down that Better Homes and Gardens on the top because it is kind of an imprint, and I didn't want that to stand out. You can still see it a little bit, but it's not bad. Once I get this sanded down, I'm going to give it a coat of black chalk paint. This is Waverly in ink. I also painted this little bunny that I got from Dollar General in a package of little white plastic bunnies. I painted it with the black chalk paint as well, and now I'm going over it with some gold acrylic paint. I'm going to apply that same gold paint to the lid as well. I'm using hot glue to apply this little bunny to the top of the lid, but I would recommend using something a little more permanent. This did fall off after a day or two, so I did have to reapply it with something more permanent. This is a perfect way to jazz up something that I already had on hand. Most of the items that you see here were all thrifted, with the exception of this little purple tree. The other things I either had on hand or were thrifted. The blocks were thrifted and the little ornaments were thrifted as well. Now I did remove the glitter eggs off this tree because I wanted to use them. I didn't like just the plain eggs. And although there is a place on that tree that's showing, it won't show once I glue this other tree next to it. So the white one, I'm going to end up painting a light blue, and you would never know that it was ever any other color. As I showed you before, these blocks spell out the word hop. I tried to do Easter, but I just didn't have enough of each letter. So I'm going to use the word hop, and I'm going to hot glue the little blue tree to the purple tree right there where that little egg broke off. And then I'm going to hot glue those to the top of the first block. Now I'm hot gluing together these little glittered eggs because I just liked the way they looked better. So I'm trying to hide all the places where they were torn from taking them off that other tree. And then I'm going to use one white tree on the far right block. The little eggs will go on the center block, and then we're going to add a couple of little bunny friends over in front of the white tree. These are little ornaments that I thrifted, and I cut the little hangers off the top and just hot glued those to the block as well. I think this one is very cute, and I hope you think so too. I hope you found this video fun and inspirational on how you can create your own Easter decor under $5. Thanks again to Emily and Wendy for hosting today's challenge. Be sure and check out the playlist in the description box below. If you're looking for something else to watch, watch this one right here. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to share the chic. Bye now.